Krishnan, it's important to remember these are not peace talks. These are talks about talks, trying actually to make peace between the Ukrainians and the Americans who have fallen out well before anything happens with Russia. What the Ukrainians are going to propose, I understand, is a partial ceasefire involving long-range missiles, manoeuvres on the Black Sea and an exchange of prisoners. I have to say I find it hard to believe the Russians will go for that. Their long-range missiles are very important to them. President Zelenskyy arrived in Saudi Arabia today. He was greeted by Saudi officials. Now, as you said, he's not part of the delegation which is going to be doing these talks. But obviously, meeting with the Saudis is very important because as the hosts of the talks, they are becoming increasingly important in all of this. Now, earlier today, I spoke to the chair of Ukraine's Parliamentary Foreign Affairs Committee, and I asked him how the Ukrainians are managing how President Trump's seeming hostility despite these talks, is going down here in Kyiv.
I cannot understand whether President Trump has some kind of ulterior plan or strategy which is not made public. Maybe he's just trying in his own way to entice Putin to bring him to the table of negotiations. Maybe, but this is exactly why we need to have this frank face-to-face talk between Zelenskyy and Trump. I hope Trump will be able to explain what it's all about.
But what we're going to see in Saudi this week is a different level, delegations from both sides. What do you think they can achieve?
I think that, first of all, Marco Rubio, who's the head of American delegation, will listen to attentively what our delegation has to say, our plan, our ideas with regard to how to bring to the end Russian aggression against Ukraine.
What do you think President Zelenskyy himself has to do to try and improve the relationship?
First of all, to have a meeting with Mr. Trump and to explain that Ukraine can be very helpful, that Ukraine is a strategic asset for the United States, that it is in the best American interests. If Mr. Trump wants to make America great again, it cannot be done without support of Ukraine, because the lack of support ruins credibility of the United States on the international stage.
That's not how President Trump looks at it. President Trump thinks he can make America great again. He doesn't need Ukraine, does he?
He needs Ukraine.
What does he need Ukraine for?
Because it's a key question for Europe's security.
He doesn't care about Europe's security.
Well, in order, even from business perspective, you cannot have a healthy economy and good economic relations unless you have stability, security and peace, including Europe, which is the biggest trade partner for the United States.
Do you think that there can be a peace deal or just a ceasefire?
I don't believe, I'm skeptical about that, because the major hurdle, the major obstacle is Putin himself. He's not interested in peace, even in ceasefire, for a very simple reason, because the only justification for his stay in power is war, and peace for him means death.
So coming here from Washington really points up how this looks totally different in the two capitals. As you've heard from that interview, the Ukrainians really think that they are the thin blue line or the thin khaki line between a predatory Russia and the free world, Europe and America. But to President Trump, it's just a war happening in somebody else's country, which America is inexplicably paying for. Now, in the short term, what the Ukrainians need to do is persuade the Americans to switch back on the intelligence and to allow military aid again. There's a lot of different versions. I've been talking to a lot of military people today about how significant all that is. In terms of battlefield intelligence, most Ukrainian brigades, they are not reliant on American intelligence. They have their own intelligence from their own systems. But they are reliant on Bradley fighting vehicles, and they need the American spare parts. But what the intelligence is really important for is for knowing when ballistic missiles are being fired at cities like Kyiv. If without that intelligence, a lot more Ukrainian civilians are likely to die.
Lindsay, thanks very much for joining us.